Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. I'm your host, Chet. Today, we have Justin Bua. Had an awesome interview with him earlier. Really great guy, great artist, been around for a long time. And this is more of a philosophical episode, I think. A lot of art business talk and the philosophy of art. And it just kind of went its own direction. So I didn't really get to ask him about his history so much. Well, I did a little bit, but it kind of went its own way, which is good. But I'm going to have him on again. We're going to do a part 2 so I can get more into the his history, his artistic history, because he's got quite a big, impressive history in the art world. What's been going on with me? Well, it was in the California fires. The Eaton fire was near me. It was insane. Had my power cut off for 3 days. This is right around the time that the last week's episode aired. I was going through hell around that time. I couldn't even get on for the premiere because I had no internet or power. I had luckily uploaded it ahead of time, and it automatictically premiered on YouTube and stuff, and on SoundCloud, which feeds out to all the other platforms. So it was crazy. No fire damage. Things are looking good right now. A lot better. But the wind totally destroyed my roof, so I'm dealing with that, trying to get a new roof put on this house. And it was scary. This winds were absolutely crazy. If you want to read, I posted a little more in-depth synopsis of what happened on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/ChetZar, and it's a free post. I made it just a public post. I also did a video on Instagram at ChetZar if you want to check that out. Not much, just a short one. So that's, it just completely threw me off track for a week, and I'm just kind of finally getting back to speed. I'm all behind on orders, and I couldn't really work for a week, so I'm sort of scrambling to make up for that, make some sales. So if you want to go to chetzar.bigcartel.com, I've got 10% off to try and encourage sales on there, because I'm trying to get rustle up some more sales just to help me get back caught up, because 1 week for me is a long time to not work. If you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/darkartsociety, and you can join for as little as $1. My Patreon, you could also join for as little as $1 at patreon.com/ChetZar. And if you join the Dark Art Society Patreon, $5 and above level, you get a 20% discount code for Skull Shop. I don't know if we have the new code. I think that ended in 2024. I'll have to ask them about that. Well, I guess that's still happening for 2025. Let me get that in place. But anyway, if you're going to join the Patreon, you're doing it to support the podcast, I imagine, more than anything. That's just a little perk. Let's see. I think that is it. That's it. I'm safe from the fires. My heart goes out to everyone who lost their homes. I know people who've lost their home, and it's really tragic. It's just unbelievable. This is climate change, people. It's just going to keep getting worse unless we do something about it. Anyway, all right. None of that. Okay, let's get on with it. Here it is, my interview with Bua. Hope you like it. Hello, Bua.
What's up, man?
Thank you so much for coming. It's finally.
Pleasure. Finally, I know.
Yeah, it's awesome.
About time.
I know. You were one of the artists that I started around 2000 when I made the decision to be a painter. And so then the first few years, I'm just like teaching myself to paint kind of and figuring out the whole gallery scene. And I'd go to Aaron Brothers to get my canvases, and I'd see your fucking posters, your prints, and it's like
everywhere.
I was always like, damn, how does he do that? It's so awesome. But your stuff was like, I could relate to it because it was distorted figures and kind of portraits, even though it's more like in hip hop and I'm kind of more monstery sort of thing. I could still relate to the technique and everything. And, yeah, and the reason I initially contacted you was because my next door neighbor, I went to his house. I think it was in 2019. I contacted you, and he's got a big framed print of yours. And his name is Jeff. Shout out Jeff, cool guy. But I texted him. I'm like, hey, I'm interviewing Bua because he's like, yeah, he's my favorite artist. and I said, yeah, I remember I was telling him. I remember I first saw that poster of his or print, and he's like, yeah, I got 3 of them. So he's got 3 of your pieces, and he doesn't have any other art, I don't think.
Well, I think I struck a chord with the generation, and it was like the perfect storm, right? So, like you said, you love figurative work, and that's why you can relate to it. I think people can relate to it because it's relatable. Oh yeah, it's all of us, and it's the funk and the soul of all of us,
right?
And, I was inspired by, guys from the Harlem Renaissance, like Ernie Barnes, but even more from mannerism, from Pontormo way back to Thomas Hart Benton. Mm-hmm. I mean, we see distortion in a lot of artists historically. We just don't call it that. They called it mannerism, or they called it,
right.
Something. I mean, if you really look at El Greco, it's the serpentine distortion of El Greco's shapes are not, he's still considered classical. So I was just taking that and kind of blending it with, my culture and hip hop, right, which was the perfect storm. And then when I was able to get it to my distributor in the 90s, it was just like nobody really wanted it, to be honest. Everyone was like, oh, this is
really?
Yeah, nobody. Like, my jazz stuff, which was a little bit more like funky graffiti and less like elongation. Well, that's not true. I guess my jazz trio was, but it was definitely like subway car graffiti with my kind of graffiti funk and classical melded. And then when I did the DJ, which was the first time I ever did a hip hop image, my distributor said, no one's going to buy this.
Wow.
And I said, why? And he said, because it's just like nobody's a DJ. Like, that's so, like, everyone can relate to a jazz player or a bass player, a piano player, but nobody can relate to a guy spinning records. It's crazy. And I said, well, if I do another like heavy hitter, because everything was always like, if you do this, I'll do this. You know what I mean? Like, everything was a trade. He was like, if you get another one that went, because he was always ripping me off anyway. So the story is that
who is this? Who is this? It's an agent, what?
Yeah, this was my old guy who distributed my work. He's the guy that simultaneously put me on the map in terms of fame. Sold millions and millions of prints, but he also was not fair with the royalty structure, and I never really got my money.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm very serious.
That fucking sucks.
Yeah. That's that. I mean, I've sold 16 million DJs. I can't tell you how much money I made off of it, because I made money after the fact. But I think when he said that's not possible, I said you got to give it a shot, and so that's why I did like another heavy hitting jazz piece that was successful because it was popular. And so then he took it around. He took it around Greenwich Village and downtown New York and to all of his core key buyers. And everybody said the same thing. It's like, Bruce is right. This is just not relatable. This is completely weird. Like, it's cool, but we can't really sell this. And so I was like, damn. And he had sent the piece to a company in Canada called Imaginus. And I don't know if you remember them. If you're not from Canada, Canadians will know this. But they did college campuses. So they like drove around in the van, broke out all the work. And you remember the posters back in the 90s that were successful were like Marilyn Monroe with her skirt blowing up,
right.
On the grating in New York, the Scarface poster. These were like very key prints that sold. So they started selling the DJ, and they started selling them like wildfire because the college kids loved it. You know, it was like his audience in Greenwich Village and the Lower East Side or in downtown in New York, they didn't get it.
Yeah.
As hip as they were kind of like avant-garde hip. Yeah, they liked like Stanley Mouse and Rick Griffin and, you know, the Grateful Dead stuff. And then they liked this stuff and my jazz stuff, but they weren't ready for this new genre, which is basically what happened. But the kids were, because they don't care about that shit.
Yeah.
And there was no context, right?
Yeah, right.
And so the lack of context and the newness of it was really hot for the kids. And so once it got popular there, all the stores in Canada wanted it. And then when all the stores in Canada wanted it, all the American stores wanted what the stores in Canada wanted, because no one cares about anything except selling.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The bottom line is money. No matter what you do, who you are, any side of the aisle politically, it's always money.
Yeah.
And so, right. So like that moved the needle. Next thing you know, he's like, yeah, okay, cool. You could do more hip hop images. And I did my 1981, which was the reflections of b-boying and, you know, on the Upper West in New York City. And so then I kept building upon that.
Did you rub it in his face at least a little bit?
Always. But he was the weirdest guy. Like, I would show him sketches. It was like horrible. And because, you know, I did a bunch of horrible art jobs. And one of the things he would do is I would send him a sketch and he would go, "Hey, Nancy, what do you think of this over here?" And Nancy would be like, "It's okay." And be like, "You know what? People are lukewarm on it." And I'd be like, "What are you talking about? You're asking some random lady that works for you who knows nothing about anything, and you're telling me everybody's lukewarm on it. Hold on. Hey, Reggie, do you like this? Okay, what don't you like about it? It's too dark. It's too dark. It's just not going to work." And I'd be like, "This is insane." Like,
this is like a cliche in the film industry, because, you know, I used to work in the effects business, and so
I do. I know all about you because of my assistant. Well, I'm going to move over there. Rob, come over here.
Oh, cool.
Uh-oh. Well,
hey, Rob.
Wait.
Come back, Rob.
Hold on. No, Rob's here.
Hey, Rob.
Oh.
All right. Whoa, cool.
Oh, look at that.
Those are out of print. That's old, man.
Those are
awesome.
out of print. He said those are old. Those are out of print.
This is from 2018.
Wow. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Yeah. We've seen my Corpro Gallery.
Corpro Gallery.
Oh, killer.
Monster Palooza, I met him there.
Awesome. Okay.
And
yeah, he's a Chet's art nerd.
Gallery. we had some work there.
He's another art center guy.
Oh, very cool.
I saw him on the street, and I picked him up.
Excellent.
And yeah, that's how I got him.
That's great.
Drove him to Texas out of LA.
Really?
Yeah, swear to God.
Wow, that's great. He must be good.
That's crazy. Yeah, he's very good. We're putting together my new book. So it's like a 330-page book that I'm supposedly allegedly releasing in March, but
excellent.
It's crazy.
So
we're trying to say, but yeah,
I was gonna say that's like a cliche. It happens so often in the film, in the effects work. Like, we'd create maquettes or designs, and then you'd have executives and stuff come in, and it was like, oh yeah, make it 13% less scary. My housekeeper thought it was too scary. Make it look like appealing to a 9-year-old boy. All these stupid. Terrible notes. It was one of the reasons I left the business, because it was just like so hard to take.
I had a show in the mid 90s on Comedy Central that I created. And it was a great show. It was called Urbania.
You created a show?
I created a TV show called Urbania, and I had created the art for Lyricist Lounge show on MTV with this guy named Claude Brooks. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, I had been working on this animated TV show about these two characters, Justo and Squatty. And so Claude, who was partners with Eddie Murphy at the time, wanted to put it on as interstitials on the Lyricist Lounge show. And I was like, okay. So I got in touch with the one of the heads of Comedy Central, Debbie Liebling, who had put on South Park. And I kind of like finagled my way and said, hey, you know, I want to show you the show. And I showed it to her. And I was very young, mind you, so I'm like right out of school pretty much.
Right.
And she's like, well, do you have a deal? And I was like, yeah, full deal with MTV. This is like the days when like people weren't checking. And she was like, okay, well, I'm going to send you out to New York and you got to pitch. I love the show. And I want you to pitch it to this lady, Eileen Katz, who was the head of Comedy Central in New York. So I went, pitch it to her, blew her mind. She's like, we'll finance a pilot.
Wow.
Yeah. Finance the pilot. Then I did the pilot. And then this is where kind of, your note reference comes in. I mean, like the amount of notes that I had like on my first pilot. And by the way, I should have and could have done everything with this lady, Anna, who was running South Park, and we would have done everything like over there. But I decided, because I'm insane, that I would just do it on my own and hire all my friends, including like some of the biggest guys in the business. Ruben Hickman, I don't know if you know who he is. He's worked on so many movies. He's like Lauren Bouchard's right-hand man on SpongeBob the movie.
Oh, wow.
All like did Bob's Burgers and he did Bob's Burgers with him and just so many projects. He's phenomenal. But all my friends who were like industry guys, and I brought everybody in and I completely fucked it all up. Because I couldn't deliver. But the notes were insane.
Oh my God.
They were like, and so I would just start adding extra fucks and shits and expletives just to be able to cancel them out so I could have them in there.
Right.
But I've worked on enough movies and TV shows and movie posters and stuff like that to realize how absolutely controlled it is, right? I mean, I did my own TV show. I did Street Art Throwdown. I don't know if you ever saw that show, but it was the first ever. It was on Oxygen, which is NBC Universal. And so I was the executive producer and the host of Street Art Throwdown. And, we got 12 episodes on TV.
Awesome,
man. But the notes and the changes and the Bua, this is your show. We don't care this is whatever you want. And then when it came down to it, was like, I'm talking with an earpiece, right? So say, okay, you say this. And I'd be like, yeah, that's really corny.
Oh,
and
that must have been so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, so then we want you to say, yo, contestants, everything was dope. And I'm like, yeah, I don't talk like that. They're like, no, just do one take. I'm like, yo, contestants, everything was dope. So like, and then after a while, I'm just kind of not even listening. And then they're having meetings about me being
oh my God,
undisciplined and
sounds like a nightmare.
Unleashed or whatever. It's TV.
Yeah.
And I think right now there's a possibility, like what you're doing or what I'm doing, whatever. Legacy media is dead.
Yeah.
And it's dead because there's too much control.
Yep.
And it's all bullshit. And
Yep.
we've all it took a long time to figure out that this is a complete fucking scam.
Yep.
And like, and also like, if you control everything, it's so manipulated and boring.
Yeah. You never get anything inspired out of that kind of situation,
It's hard. It's hard,
Yeah, you're fighting. I mean, that's what in effects I felt like I'm fighting with. I've said this a million times on the podcast, but it's like I felt like to production, it's like I'm fighting to make your project better, and you keep making me make it lame. You keep trying to get me to make it lame, and it's like I'm trying to make your project be badass. So let me do my job. And they're like, no, we have to make it lamer.
Dude, when they
makes you crazy.
Yeah, when they did the advertising for this campaign, they didn't do like, I was like, yeah, let's do some hardcore graffiti, let's make it gritty, let's make it urban, let's like keep it like how it's supposed to be and protect the culture. They did a wraparound New York City train line and billboards with these corny cartoon characters kind of coming up from the street. And all these kids were running, like a lot of it was like running to go do this mural or running to go to the whatever. And if you look at it, and I got destroyed by the street artists in New York. It was called Street Art Throwdown, and they went everywhere and they crossed down Street Art Throwdown. They wrote Street Art Throw Up.
Oh man,
I mean, it was like
that must have been depressing.
Well, that was kind of the best part of the advertising, to be honest. But like the train wraps, like they could have, you're handing it over to a massive company, that's doing the advertising campaign. Right. And so you're already diluted because you're on oxygen, and you're already diluted because you kind of have crafted everything. And now you're diluted a little bit more because now you're handing it over to some advertising company that doesn't really understand the integrity of the culture or anything about the culture. And they've got this weird third party illustrator doing kind of like corny foo-foo street art.
Yeah. What a bummer.
But, you know, this it's TV, dog. You know, like it's just the way it is. You know.
Yeah. If you're gonna do that, you got to play that game. You know, that's
Or you know, like we can't say that there's been no great movies, right? Like you worked on Hellboy, right?
Yeah,
I think
true.
That was pretty fucking great. And I would say that Stanley Kubrick was like, get the fuck out of my space.
Yeah.
I'm doing it my way. There's definitely, I'm doing it my way, people.
Right. But those are few and far between. That's the thing. I always say, you know, I probably never would have quit the effects business if every project was like a Guillermo del Toro movie, or like a Tool video where they're just super creative and fun. And, but those were the outliers. 95% was just the same old, you know, and the bigger project you got, like we did the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah. That was amazing.
I mean, the effects were amazing, but the movie was bad.
Yeah.
But you know, it was like they had executives come in at one point to look at what we were working on for, I think, Happy Meals. Like they had some kind of Happy Meal tie. That's like,
so typical.
You know,
right?
so this is the, you know, the high.
How are advertisers like this?
So the higher up you go, the bigger the project, which is like, oh, great, there's more money and time to do these things. But then there's more shit like, you know, Happy Meals approval of McDonald's corporate people.
Insane.
So, yeah, it's totally crazy. But yeah, I never looked back.
So what are you doing? Like, what's your thing now?
I'm just
like
full time. I mean, I make most of my money from my website, selling my prints and whatever.
So you're kind of moved into the real fine art. And
oh yeah.
If there was ever a movie you would do.
Oh yeah.
Again, would you?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'd work on I'd work on a Guillermo movie anytime.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, that's the cool thing is now I can kind of
pick and choose
if I want. Not that anyone's hitting me up, but I did a movie a few years ago. It must have been right before COVID, called Bliss, which was like this vampire underground kind of art exploitation vampire movie, which was pretty cool. And they had me make a big painting, because the lead character was an artist, and she was painting this painting throughout the movie. But that was the first time I ever got like a front end credit in the beginning.
That's great.
And it's like, you know, it took all that time. I worked on all these cool movies back then, and it's like we're always at the end, back after like craft services, and
you're right. You know, after everyone's leaving the theater.
it's all
and you
good,
got
though.
such a cool name too. Like, to me, they should just use your name straight up, because that's such a cool name. Is that like your real name?
Well, it's my stepdad's name. I was born Cepeda, and he adopted me. I don't know, when I was 9 or something, and I couldn't pass that name up. He was raising me since I was 6 or something. So he was.
I mean, that's like a very rare name that goes with what you do.
Yeah, it is kind of.
Most people don't do like. That's why I don't have anyone call me Justin. Just call me Bua.
Yeah.
You know, because that's me. But then if you say Justin, it's like, well, first of all, people call me Jason, and then it's like, ugh. And then Justin Bua. It's just Bua is just
right.
So
yeah, Bua is great. Bua is great.
You know, I'll tell you who I work with who was very cool is Gore Verbinski, the guy that directed Rango.
Right.
He did Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I did visual development on a movie that I think that they have shelved, but because of his brilliance, he also did Weatherman, which is probably with Nicolas Cage, probably one of the most underrated great movies ever.
Really? Okay. I gotta write that down.
Yeah, Weatherman. Of course, he did Rango, and then of course he did, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean is obviously, you know, it's just a massive movie, but he was fun to work with because he kind of got the fact that, like, you know, who I am and what I bring, and I was designing these crazy cats, you know, urban cats, street cats, alley cats, jazz cats, literally felines, you know. So it was fun for me because I got to get a little bit out of because I could do all that stuff, and he allowed me to kind of go to town. And then they built a bunch of 3D characters based upon my VD work. But I think it was, I think when you get somebody like Gore or you get somebody like Guillermo, I think we need more of that.
I know.
Everybody else is just stale.
There's so much talent out there that if you let them do their job, they would make your movie completely badass, but it's
it's a bunch of bean counting, number crunching people who are saying, no, but we have to have the pretty girl. We have to have the hero. We have to, and then that makes, that gets us our 250 million back, and that sells it to foreign, you get foreign rights. And I mean, there's unfortunately an equation that we're tethered to, but I think it's going to change.
I hope so. Yeah. It's all changing so much. Everything's changing so much that you can't even tell where things are going. It's just,
I mean, honestly, if you get 5 great guys with AI now, I mean, this is the good side of AI, right? The bad side we could talk about.
Yeah.
But if you get 5 super duper crazy talented people, you can make a feature film now.
Yeah.
With all the tools we have at our disposal.
Yeah. And I mean, even without AI, it's if you look at the cameras are cheap, these professional grade cameras, it's you really can do it. It's, so that is changing. I was going to say though, it's the guys like Guillermo and Gore are these are just, they're a tiny minority of these kind of visionary people that know that the artists will give you their best work if you let them do their thing, because we're into it. We love it. We want to make your project so great. It's I want to give my all to this project and make your movie badass. But when you're, I had a friend who used to say, I always try and put he worked he was a really great sculptor. He said, I always put my best foot forward and then they step on it. It's every time. He was super simple.
I mean, it's, and it's sometimes it's not even them, right? Because they're beholden to the executives and the bottom line.
Oh yeah, that's usually
the
problem.
Investors and the board of directors.
Yeah, that's producers and directors are getting that same shit just on a higher level. It's the people that control the money, and I get it.
Man, if I just think about if I had those budgets, I would just be doing the craziest stuff.
Oh, I know. I think about that all the time. We'd be making stuff that would blow people's minds.
Exactly.
It would be, everybody would freak out. It would be a worldwide thing because it would be so cool. And it's give us some of the money. Come on.
Yeah, just write me a check. I might not make a movie at that point, but yeah, just write me a check anyway. Well, I agree. I think that unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. No, it's the opposite.
It really is. Yeah. And I look at where television is going, and just with we're getting way more views on YouTube, right? We're getting way more streams on YouTube than we are on legacy TV, and with movies and how they can make movies now. I was watching the Star Wars. What was the Star Wars we're watching? Skeleton Crew. Mm-hmm. I mean, the visual effects are incredible.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's incredible. Yeah.
It's just nuts. And obviously that's big budget TV, right? That's Disney big budget stuff, but people are going to shock the world with what they're able to do now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that they're going to have no choice but to, the control and the ownership and the distribution modalities are going to change.
Yeah. And that's exciting.
It is exciting.
That's the good side of it. You just got to kind of keep plugging away and doing your thing and just keep plowing through and just keep grinding. Just keep going and wait for your opportunity to come up. It's like a mixture of timing and being ready when it happens. And, so.
I mean, that was my poster career, right? It was the fact that I met my distributor and I was doing the work that I was doing, and the world was kind of ready for it at that moment. There was, and by the way, the distribution channels were there. So I caught the wave of the underground rock and roll gallery, head shops, college market. And then that just got obliterated by big box retailers. Mm. So when Target came along and Bed Bath & Beyond and Prince Plus and Z Gallery, they crushed the small gallery.
Right.
Because small galleries would take your work and then they would upsell you with the frame and they would make a ton of money.
Right.
But then Target was like, well, why do that? You can get a print that's on canvas pre-framed for like $40.
Yeah.
So that changed, and they had 3,000 Targets. They had 7,500 Walmarts.
Damn.
And then I had luckily got into the big box wave too. So I rode this wave, and then I got on that wave, and that's when it exploded because there was much more distribution.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I rode like the poster wave for many years.
Wow.
Probably the longest of anybody who did posters.
Well, I can't think of anybody else whose posters I know of from being in like an Aaron Brothers. I can't think of anybody else, or my next door neighbor doesn't have any other posters, framed posters in his house. So it's like, you were the guy for that.
That was the second wave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
And then after that wave, this is how it all ended. Target kept nickel and diming. And so did everybody else, because they started realizing, let's cut the amount spent on the art because we can get it free from China.
Oh God. Yeah.
So, and then it was either in-house or China, and it was essentially free, right? They got people on payroll. Let's do knockoff Buas. Let's do whatever.
Wow. Yeah.
And people aren't as sophisticated as long as it's fitting in what was called the planogram, which was like a certain space. They had to fit different image shapes, like an 8x14 with a 6x12. And they had to fix that and figure that out. And once they nickel and dime me to a point where I wasn't making any ROI, I was like, I'm not making any money. You know what I mean? And I'm like, am I just going to do this for publicity?
Yeah. Yeah. That's only going to take you so far, as far as paying the bills.
Hey, you're the famous guy who's broke. And that kind of was what happened. And then I just said, no, I gotta cut it, because it's.
Is this when you cut ties from the guy that the agent dude that ripped you off?
So I had cut ties with him halfway into the big box explosion.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, hey, let me look at your books. It was like a lot of like, oh no way. And then finally, when I got to look at it, I was like, these look cooked. Like these look like. Wait, like this was the days, before Excel sheets, and this was all like, there's a lot of erasing and,
Oh my God.
But there was 12,000 posters there. Those were damages. Well, how do I know? Well, there were damages. I was like, oh God. So I got the rights to do my prints. I opened up a massive warehouse in LA. I had a team of people. I did all the distribution myself.
Wow.
We then moved. When that market tanked, we moved to limited edition G clays. And then that was a whole other scam kind of world. And then we were dealing with the wholesale and the retail, and it was just a lot. And so I stopped everything because it was like too much. And so I was like, but if you do like the math, I don't know how your business is, but like, this is interesting for people who are artists out there. Mm-hmm. But if I start doing the math and I have like this cloud of where my revenue comes from prints, from limited editions, from illustrations, commercial work. I always look at commissions and originals to be the biggest. So originals and commissions to me, even during some of my heyday, were always like, because think about it, it's less overhead. I'm not hiring anybody to help me. I'm just me, myself, and my microphone type shit. Like me, my paintbrush, and my paints.
Yep.
And my client.
Right.
I don't need to pack orders, to fulfill orders, to print. It was so much expenses, and then, all my employees have insurance. It's just me and doing and my, my easel. That's it.
Yeah.
And so that I started realizing, well, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like I'm killing myself. I'm like just killing myself to get work out to all these people, and the energy that I'm spending is not worth what I'm getting back.
Right.
And so I just stopped and started kind of just scaling everything down, which was an ego smash, but it was, I don't have the big studio, I don't have all the employees running around. It's just me and my assistant.
Right.
And so I've kind of taken that model and, unless I'm gearing up for a certain project, but like I take that model and That's kind of what I've been doing for the last decade.
Yeah, I think it's better that way. I think smaller is better really when it comes to running your own, or at least running my art business. I don't know. I think one thing about artists is every artist has a different way they're earning their money. It's like there's so many different ways of doing it. And for me, I didn't do any wholesale. It's all retail, direct to people on my website. And it's
D2C. That's how it should be.
And so I make most of my money from that. And I'll do a gallery show a year or every other year, and those are pretty good money, but they also take time to produce the work. And,
Sure.
So overall it's like, and I got a Patreon, which gives me, a little bit of money, covers my mortgage every month, which is great.
Gotcha.
And so it's like between all these little different things, I can just scrape by, it's like,
and you're the successful one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
Like, I mean, no, I mean, because when you go out on your own, this is a risk. Like, I talk to my friends who are in the business, right? Mm-hmm. They have daddy taking care of them. We don't, obviously that's offensive to a lot of people, but you know how it is. It's like they have somebody they got the 401k, they got the insurance, they got the this, that, the other thing. And so for guys like us, it's a risk, but it's worth the risk to be your own boss.
Absolutely.
Because and you have to deal with the trials and tribulations of that risk. And that's just called life.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be that serial entrepreneur, then you have to live and die by being it.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that it's just the way it is, man.
Yeah. I know it's such a hard lesson to learn.
But no one's telling you what to do.
You're paying the price for freedom and creating whatever you want to make.
And that is a very difficult thing to do in this creator economy, in this gig economy. We're talking about like most people are supplementing their income. I'm not talking about the Trustafarians or, the silver spoon in the mouth kids. But I think your average person is, especially people who want to be creative, are, the gig economy is quickly changing.
Mm-hmm.
And, AI is really taking over. And we're just starting to see robotics, which in about a year will change the entire landscape of everything. So like, people who think that they're safe. Oh, I drive an Uber in my spare time. It's like, no, those are going to be driverless cars.
Yeah.
Oh no, but I'm building chassis at BMW. No, those are already now 10% robotics in North Carolina, where they were doing the pilot, robotics thing, and they found out they were 7 times more efficient and 4 times faster. So that this manual labor and these jobs they're going 750,000 jobs lost at Amazon to robotics.
Yeah. But it's like, how are people going to buy their stuff if nobody's making any money? It's like, are they thinking that far ahead? Because if people don't have any money, they're not going to be able to buy anything. Well,
I think they are, and they're not. So like, I think that to me, the advent of AI and robotics, and ultimately when they start to kind of connect them all, when they really start to become like taking over. Like I was talking to my friend who's in Kauai, and he's like us. He's a hardworking guy, he has a nutritional company, he's very successful. And he's like, hey, I got this lawnmower for $4,000, and it's a robotic lawnmower.
Wow.
And it's all, and he's got a very crazy wild property that's difficult. He's got cacao tree, cacao bushes, trees, and coconut and durian and all these avocados and everything. And the land is rugged with rocks and hills. And he's like, dude, it's better than any gardener I've ever had.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Like what? And he goes, dude, check it out. So I looked into it and I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. So like all the people who thought, first obviously creators were like, we'll never get our job taken away. And next thing you know, it's like DALL-E, Midjourney, and all these tools. And you're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But then you start to look at the stuff that you think is going to be untouched, like gardening.
Right.
And you get a high level gardener. This guy's like the high level. And he's like, I have this machine for $4,000 is saving me money already.
Right.
And it's already got, the whole landscape figured out. So
Crazy.
I don't know if anybody is safe. I think the people that are safe are the entrepreneurs who are strategic, who can deal with who are critical thinkers. But I think that we're heading into something that we don't even know how crazy it's going to be.
Yeah.
And when you think about why, right? Like people are like, oh, because they're saving, the people at the top are saving money. You got 0.005 of the population that makes the most money.
Right. Yeah. Which is always the problem.
Right. And those are the people who are saving the most money with all of this. So they're going to even have more money.
It's so up.
It's crazy. So, but I think that it's a good thing to think about. Like there is only one Chet Zar, right? So there's only one Justin Bua. Like, and that's really how it has to be if you're going to be an entrepreneur. You got to be the one.
Yeah. I feel like as artists, I know a lot of like illustrators are pretty screwed, and people who do concept art are screwed, which is terrible. But I feel like individual fine artists can make it, because there's only ever going to be a Justin Bua original by you. And that's what makes it valuable, especially as more things get taken over by AI. I feel like in a way, I'm hoping it's going to make original fine art even more valuable and more special, because there's less of it, because most of it is AI crap.
Well, I would say that's true if people understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is there's probably a lot of people that don't give a shit. They're just like, right, oh, so that's like, a cool image, and they don't. But those aren't hardcore collectors, though. Those aren't your people. Those aren't the people that support you. The people that support you are just going to support you. I
agree. I sold my first sketchbook the other day, not the other day, but last month, and it was a really nice feeling to know that I could sell my drawings, which are, I don't really show my drawings that much. My drawings,
I saw them in a little bit in a video. They were really great. In a video I was just watching on Chris Dyer interview of you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was great. I was like, I want to keep watching, but I had to do this interview.
Yeah, so I think the raw, the real, the critical, the deeply, all of that. I think I agree with you. I think that's untouchable. But I think we're heading into a world where the new art people are gonna be like, I'm trying to copyright my prompts, and you're just like, what the hell?
Yeah,
like,
I know, that's
but they're winning. The unfortunate thing is, like, because everything is kind of the wild, wild west. People are like, well, that does kind of make sense. It's like, no, wait, what?
Yeah,
and there's not enough people protecting. It's just the technology is going too fast for anybody to protect it, right?
But there's that lawsuit. There's that lawsuit with Brahm and all these artists. That's
right.
It's been helpful. It seems like the only place really. But I think more lawsuits are gonna come, and it's gonna have to be settled, because it's just it's not gonna work. They're just gonna keep upgrading everything, and it's just gonna keep throwing these amazing images and stuff at people, and it's while these lawsuits are taking years, their software is just the AI is just getting better and better, and it's like, ugh.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen anything yet. I think we're kind of prehistoric with it, and with nanotechnology and all of these things that are happening simultaneous. Like I said, every day it's something else. It's like, when you hear Elon, he said, whether you like it or not, it's not like a choice, right? Because like if we don't do it, if we don't join the race, right? So South Korea's already doing.
Yeah, China's going to do it.
China's doing it. So like, okay, so we know we have to do it. So
it's
we have to be competitive.
Yeah, it's like the nuclear bomb. It's like the atom bomb. It's like you got to do it, or else someone else is going to do it and screw you with it.
Right. So how does it? So he's saying, I don't want to know, was it 2030 or 2010? I forgot what it was. Obviously, it's a big difference because 20 years. But he was saying there's going to be 3 robots for every 1 person, and it's. I don't want to say that, but it's just a fact.
Well, okay. I don't trust what Elon says, because he's always like, we're going to be on Mars in 5 years, and then 5 years goes. Where the driverless vehicles are coming now, and they're not. Well, so I know it's eventually it's going to get there, but I think it's going to maybe take a little.
Man,
maybe not. I don't know, man.
I was in I was in LA before the fires. And in Austin, you know, because I'm not far from Austin here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of driverless vehicles.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I'm like, these are clearly pilot tested, you know, but I don't think we're far at all.
Yeah.
And I talked to my friend who's a really tech, like he's super, super crazy knowledgeable all the time. And the story he tells me are like, oh my God, this is going to be crazy.
You're saying my friend Josh is saying, always telling me the same thing. And I'm trying to kind of like go, yeah, well, maybe not. But I don't know.
I mean, I'm with the maybe not in terms of, I'm with the I hope not.
Yeah, I think I'm more in denial.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm, you know, and it's funny because we all love part of it, right? We love the fact that you and I could talk right now over the iPhone. And I think the iPhone is probably one of the most revolutionary things ever. Like just the phone, like this level of technology is crazy, right?
Absolutely.
We're doing a pod. This is just huge. What a huge step.
Yeah.
But the steps are coming faster and faster. And I think that AI and robotics and that, I think that is going to even be, you know, like thousands of times more powerful than the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. It's such a scary thought.
Well, and it's weird because we're analog guys, right? Like, I certainly come from the rotary phone.
Yep.
You know,
absolutely, man.
I never had a phone like when me and my friends were going to go hang out. It was like, because I told him I'm gonna meet you at the bodega tomorrow at 3:00, and you better be there.
Yeah.
We're not going to be friends if you don't. But now it's like, you know, communication. Is crazy, and I think it's going to be fast and furious, and I think that, and you know how that happens. Like once it's there, then it's normalized.
Yeah, right.
And these kids now, they're living in a different world.
I know.
And it wasn't like 20 years.
Right.
It's like 2 years.
I know.
Right. Like, and the next thing will be 1 year and then 6 months. And it's like, oh my God. And that's the problem, right? We're going too fast.
Yeah.
Like, so for the gig economy, you got like 1.57 billion people who are in the gig economy and only 25% of them are working.
Wow. Yeah.
So you what are they going to do when they can't Uber or they can't work the night shift or they can't do other things? How are they going to supplement their income? That's the question.
Right.
Especially for creatives, right? For creatives like us, the industry is getting taken over a lot by AI, right? Mm-hmm. You would say that in your industry as well?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they're you know, sculpting jobs are less because they do them digitally. And I mean, you've got artists sculpting in ZBrush, but there used to be the sculptor, you know, they design it, someone would design it, someone would sculpt it, someone would make a mold of it, someone would cast it. And now they do the sculpture, or at least at one shop I know of, they do sculpture in ZBrush, and then they make the mold instead of, they don't 3D print a positive, they 3D print the mold. So it's like the mold's done. So the mold makers.
Are you talking about legacy?
Yeah. So it's like the mold, there's the mold shop is, there's no mold. I'm sure there are a few mold makers, but it's like, that's a whole job that was eliminated because they could just 3D print the molds. It's crazy.
And then what's that program that does I was watching it a couple of weeks ago, like makes objects right away just from prompting.
Oh yeah. I don't know the name of it. Is it any good? Because I know some of the early ones were like, I could see the potential, but they were a little bit rough, but it's coming. That's going to come.
Yeah. So then what will those people do at Legacy? That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, so
yeah. Right. I know.
Do you know Darnell Issam at Legacy?
No.
He's a wonderful sculptor. He's done work for me before. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Jim's wonderful too. And Darnell. And yeah, there's really good artists over there. It's incredible.
Yeah. They're great. State of the art shop, you know,
state of the art. Yeah, totally. Incredible. Seriously. But but that's the question. Like what's going to happen to these sculptors, to these craftsmen, to these people who are spent their, you know, and then, well, if this is really the case, then why are they going to school?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Also, why are they going to school when there's every possible resource out there for free pretty much
Well,
on
that's
YouTube. That's another issue.
that's another issue. Like that when I was in school at Art Center, man, we didn't have that.
No.
Did you go to school or were you
No.
self-taught?
Yeah, self-taught. I started working in the business about a year out of high school.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I was
Amazing.
in high school. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a makeup effects artist and sculptor.
That's
So
it.
I just practiced. Didn't do anything else. Took pictures for a portfolio, and I got right in pretty
Yeah,
quick after
smart.
school.
That's crazy. Yeah, man. I think about Art Center and how much it was, but the access I had to these monster Titanic draftsmen and
Yeah.
women. Gary Meyer, my prospective teacher, and Steve
I would have
Hust.
loved to have gone to Art Center. That would have been the ultimate.
Who would you have loved to study with over there?
Oh, I don't know. I just know
Well,
that it's amazing. I know that it's amazing, and I know the artists that come out of there. Like, wasn't Michael Husser teaching there? At
Oh
one
yeah,
point?
Mike was me and Mike were on the softball team together.
Really?
Bro. Mike was a hell of a softball player, bro.
Wow.
I loved having Mike on my team. But yeah, Mike was weird because Mike took a bunch of years to go through Art Center. So by the time that I was a freshman, he was a senior. And I would hang out with him. We have very similar experiences where you know who Eric Timmons is?
I know the name. I can't.
He's a big concept artist for Star Wars, and he's just really he was there when I was there too, but he was in Mike's class. And Mike was good, but he wasn't as good as like Eric Timmons. And so I think he had that experience like when he sat next to Eric and in his first day of life drawing and he looked over, he was like, oh shit, I really suck. And I kind of had that same thing in my class with I was like, oh man,
that's how you get good though.
Yeah,
is you get around people better than you. You know?
Yeah. But Mike, when Mike was doing as a senior, blew my mind. And right out of school, Mike did the Army of Darkness poster.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that was like, I saw him bring it in. And he did it for Zeiniger. I don't know if you know Zeiniger, who was like the big movie guru. Like if you work with Zeiniger, you were the guy.
Wow. Okay.
Like Gary Meyer, who did Jaws and the Chicago album From Above. He was my teacher.
Oh, wow.
He worked with Zeiniger. And Mike was already working with Zeiniger. And Mike was so good, and it was so like, and now you see everybody just kind of tries to paint like Mike, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Which is like funny because you want to be like Mike, you know, Michael Jordan, the whole campaign, be like Mike.
Yeah.
But now you see like people, I'm like, yeah, that looks like a Mike Husser.
Yeah, yeah.
But I knew Mike Husser pre-Dark.
Yeah.
You know, I knew Mike Husser. I remember going to the gallery and seeing a fishbowl that he painted in gouache. This fishbowl I remember it because it blew my mind. And it was like so beautifully painted. It was painterly, but super realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And the colors were gorgeous.
Wow. I'd love to see that.
And and it was like all his student shit that I was just like, damn, this dude is like good. You know, like he wasn't Eric Timmons,
right?
Who was like this weird kind of Michelangelo, John Singer Sargent prodigy.
Right. Most people aren't that.
Yeah, no,
most of us have to work our asses off to get.
Right, but I think Mike worked his ass off. That's my point.
Right.
I think Mike took 8 semesters. I think he must have done it in like 20 semesters or some shit. Like he was always taking off, getting better, painting from life. And it's funny because then all of what Mike did, like all those head paintings that he's known for.
Yeah.
And all the darkness with the tears and the pearls and all the shit that he's good at. Like everybody's doing what Mike Husser did. And I always and then I saw Mike's work in like a bar in Pasadena.
Yeah. Like
all of
coffee shop or something.
Yeah. I was like, what? I called him. I said, hey, I want to buy one of these. Like what? He goes, well, maybe, but I don't know. Anyway.
He's very attached to his work, I hear.
Yes. He's very attached to his work, but he's phenomenal.
He's amazing.
He's very, 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 very good.
Absolutely.
And it's funny, and I never thought of this, but he created this genre.
Yep.
Because I was like, why is your work so dark, man? Why is it so like, because I knew Mike like the dude on my softball team. Like he was a good athlete. Like these kind of guys are not like the dark, brooding,
right,
romantic vampire shit. It wasn't like him. But he's a really trippy guy.
Well,
And he's
most
talented.
Oh yeah, talented as hell. Yeah, he's one of the first. I got to get him on the podcast. He's one of the first people that came out doing dark, kind of dark that
Fine art
of that
almost.
wave of it was like Chris Mars and Husser, I think, were kind of
Yep.
in the '90s doing that. And yeah, that's the funny thing though about the dark art people, because I mostly interview dark people who do dark art. Just as a rule, but I interview all kinds of artists, but that's how it started anyway.
Yep.
Just trying to promote the genre to, trying to help it.
Would you say that Mike is kind of like one of the kings of that, right?
Yeah, definitely. He's like the godfather. I mean, you go back further and you got Giger and Beksinski and stuff like that. But
Mike could paint like he's just I don't think anybody could paint in oils like him.
Oh yeah, he's
obviously Sean Cheatham, Jeremy Lipking, they're all great.
Yes.
But Mike has
he's got his own thing.
Pathos. Yeah, he's got his own shit.
He's got his own thing. But what I was going to say is, after interviewing like hundreds of dark artists on this podcast, it's like they are all the nicest people. They're like more nice than regular people. It's really strange. It's like there's hardly ever any of these kind of, you'd think it'd be brooding, bummed out, depressed people. No, we're all like upbeat and happy and kind of love life. And it's just it's just what you're attracted to aesthetically. I just grew up watching horror movies and I just love that stuff. It makes me happy. It's fun to me. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think Mike is a pretty intense person. I haven't talked to him in years, but
yeah, I don't know him too well, but
I just remember this one painting he did. You should look this one up if you can. If you don't know it right away, there's two people, and I remember he did this in school. Like I was at school looking at the painting, like, God damn, like what? How am I going to get that good? Like it was one of those, like, oh, yeah, I want to be that. It was two naked people kind of reaching for a cherry,
kissing
on it. Yeah,
yeah, I know the painting.
This Asian women under the table coming out. Dude, he did that in school.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Like in school, out of his head. Yeah. I was like, how'd you get that? Oh, I didn't use reference. Well, how'd you get that head? I just did it from my head. But how about the strawberry? And then he's got the cook, right? The cook with the butcher.
Yeah.
I was like, how about that? He goes, I kind of looked in the mirror, but I did that. Like everything was out of his head.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I was like, and then that's when I was kind of like, God damn it. Like how I got to get better. He's one of those people that pushed me to get better because he was just banging that out in school.
Yeah. That's incredible. But that's so incredible. It's so important to work around people like that. Because
he was around Eric Timmons, so he was probably like, God damn it.
Yeah.
He was having that same goddamn moment with Eric Timmons, like, God damn it, I got to get better.
I remember when I went to work for Rick Baker, I had worked at another shop for like 10 years and I was sort of the art lead, the main sculptor there. And so I kind of thought I was the shit, because I was like, I don't know, I was good, but I went to Rick's
to the game.
Then I went to Rick's and I was like, oh, I'm not as good as I thought I was. All these people are better than me. And I like immediately was like, it was a kick in the ass I needed. And I just working around those people, I got up there on that level just from working around them for a few years, It
happens, man.
Yeah. And so it's so important to put yourself in, be around people that are better than you,
Yeah.
At least when you're young.
I've been best friends with a guy, like I told you, named Reuben Hickman. And he's in the movie industry and he's just one of those dudes who could like, oh, let me do a quick painting of an underwater submarine exploding. And
yeah, that's crazy.
With like, but butterflies, but all the butterflies are in these little capsules and they're floating, anything you throw at them and it's pretty fast, pretty good, beautiful colors, beautiful composition, whatever he wants to do, whenever he wants to do it, but he does it all day, every day, and because he's kind of the movie comp master, it makes sense. It's just like, that's what he's paid to do, whether it's for Wes Anderson or for Lauren or, when he was at DreamWorks for Jeffrey Katzenberg, it's like he's the go-to, but he's been my best friend forever.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of competed a lot and it's been good, healthy competition.
Yeah, that's great. I wonder what's the situation with you being a free agent and doing whatever you want, and then him being tied to having to do movie projects. Cause that's something I just started my career. I got laid off one year and I was like, I'm not going to look for another job. Boom, I'm doing it. I'd been doing fine art for, I don't know, 7 years up to that point. So I was like kind of at that point where I might be able to make a living at it without another job. And I just went full into it and just fucking, I've been treading water ever since for like 20 whatever years, just hustling. And, and I wonder, it's like, should I have stayed in that job and tried to do the fine art on top of that, just because it's so difficult financially?
I think it's hard to do that.
When I'm looking back though, at when I was in effects, at that point, I'd been doing it for 20 years and I was like, I gotta get out. I can't take it anymore. It was painful to go to work every day knowing that I had all these canvases at home that I was dying to work on, so
and you don't own it. You don't own anything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Nothing.
It's not yours. Like everything that he does, it's great. He's super skillful. It's amazing. He tries to get his own work in, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
So I think everything is a trade-off.
Yeah.
For me, it's misery. No, I'm kidding. For me, it's financial instability. No, but it is. It is.
Yeah.
Like there's a misery to financial instability.
Absolutely.
That he doesn't have. The nice thing is that I just call my own shots. I get up when I want to. I work when I want to. I work when I work when I have to.
Yep.
But he's kind of like, he has deadlines and he's got deliverables that I don't. Well, I mean, I do for my jobs, but it's a different thing. And at the end of the day, he doesn't own his IP.
Right.
And that's why I've always been like, oh man, you got to do a sketchbook because his sketches are so crazy and so good and they're so nuts. And I'm like, I'll produce a sketchbook for you, but there's so many people like that who are in the industry who we don't even know. It's like Heinrich Kley, right? Like the great draftsman Heinrich Kley that Walt Disney stole a bunch of his.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the dancing bears, the horses, they were very anthropomorphized, the skating elephants. I mean, that's not what he did. His main shtick was painting urban landscapes, but his sketchbooks is what made him famous, and that was what he loved to do. The other things paid the bills,
right?
And little did he know, or anybody know, that Walt Disney essentially, took a lot of his shit, and everybody copied his shit, and he's just a classically beautiful draftsman. His paintings are very good too, but he's known for that. And that's, that's where he lived essentially, right?
Yeah.
I work for this, but I live for this.
Right.
And so in this day and age with AI, I think that it's going to be a lot harder for people to make inroads into the world doing what we're doing. It's not as easy because there's not as much work and there's as much, if not more, people getting into it.
Right. You mean fine art, or you mean like conceptual art and stuff, or everything?
Well, definitely conceptual art, but I think fine art too.
Yeah, because I was, when the AI thing first started going around, and people were freaking out, rightfully so, and I was sort of like, I don't know why. I was trying to like calm people down, just weird personality flaw. But I was kind of like, maybe instead of freaking out, all you illustrators and effects people, maybe it's a good time to start doing your own personal work and try and monetize that. Because when I was in effects, everybody I worked with was like, oh, I want to be a fine artist. Everybody. And then, I left and did it. My friend Kazu left and did it, but he still is doing some effect stuff like prosthetic makeups, like the Winston Churchill prosthetic makeup on Gary Oldman, because he's amazing at it. But
phenomenal.
But nobody left because it's so hard to do. But I feel like every illustrator wants to do their own work. So maybe it's time. Maybe use this AI warning as a time to like start focusing on your own work, because if you have your own IP and you're creating original pieces and you can sell them, that's like AI will never be able to take that from you.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, so he was Ruben, like for an example, he's got the stability. I have the creative freedom.
Right.
But the stability gives him peace.
Yeah.
Creative freedom.
True.
Right. And where I find disorder from the lack of stability.
Right.
But I have creative peace.
Right.
Which he doesn't have as much time for that, right? That I have. So it's always going to be a trade-off.
I know.
And then the other thing is like, it's a grass is always greener thing. Right?
I know.
Like, so I'm not doing that, but I wish I was. And we could all say that.
Yeah.
but we're doing whatever we're doing. And so, and what I think what you said before was interesting because there's something about all the different channels. You talk about Patreon, you talk about your merchandise, you talk about, your gallery shows.
Mm.
And we didn't have that when we were younger. We didn't have these, I've got, 268,000 followers on Instagram or, and counting. And like, I didn't have that when I was coming out of Art Center. I had a portfolio with slides.
Yeah.
Which became four by fucking slides with 8x10s. And I would hold my portfolio and I would knock on the doors at the New Yorker, at the LA Times, Maxim magazine. I was doing all the editorial stuff, knocking on the doors, doing storyboards for the movie industry. I just hustling in a different way.
Yeah.
But it was a physical kind of hustle. And now it's a digital hustle.
Mm-hmm.
But theoretically, we have much more opportunity now because, but now the opportunity are also clogged by everybody.
Way more
access.
way more competition.
Yeah, like now you could just be like, I'm going to just DM Justin Bua. I'm going to DM Chet. I'm going to DM like I'm going back and forth with Alec Baldwin like last week about a piece he was interested in. I'm like, I'm just talking to freaking Alec Baldwin on the, or whoever.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, boom. And now you have this crazy connection with people and access to people that you never had. So that opens up opportunity.
Right.
But I think it goes back to what I think you and I would agree upon when I look at Ruben, I look at Mike Husser, I look at you and me, is that we have a years and years and years of mastery and years and years and years of spending time drawing and painting and being alone and not being distracted with social media, not being distracted with all that stuff that just wasn't around. Like, remember, Mike Husser's older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Mike Husser was painting like a freaking madman without any distractions.
Right.
And I'm not saying like zero, but like, let's be honest. We all spend time doing stuff that is distracting us from our craft. And I think that the kids today, that's the main thing that separates the OGs and the youngins, is that we didn't even have the temptation of that.
Yeah, right.
So I wonder how today these young kids can kind of get over that.
I know,
because that's the first obstacle.
Yeah.
Like, Rob's a really hard worker, but guys like him they're even at Art Center, it's like, or when I was teaching, I taught at USC, I taught classical figure drawing for 12 years. And on the last day, when I decided to quit, I said, I went around the room. It's like 25 kids. What do you want to do? I want to be a CEO. Oh, okay. What do you want to do? I want to be a COO. Oh, okay. How about you? What do you want to be, John? Oh, I want to be a billionaire. Oh.
Really?
How about you? How about you, Kathy? And every single person, nobody said they wanted to be a great artist. Nobody said they were passionate about the art and they wanted to do all of that and then some. All of them said the same thing, which is, I want to be rich and famous. Hold on. Hey, Rob, can you go meet Micah? Just make sure.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I know.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
And then I'll come shortly after. I think Micah's supposed to be here. Just
I'll wrap things
That's
up
okay.
soon. Sorry.
Huh? I know he's supposed to go to the casita and stuff. Just go to Monica for a second. I'll be there in a minute.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up.
Sorry, bro.
No.
But like, I'll take it again, but like, if you cut it. But every kid said they want to be rich because the new generation has this Kim Kardashian mind, even the artists. And I was like y'all are not all, or like I'm going to be the director. And I'm like, well, I don't like, there's one kind of, director, like just, you know what I mean? Like I'm, by the way, you could be the director. You could be the next Gore Verbinski. You could be Spielberg. I don't want to hate on you or I'm just trying to give you a little bit like, but it's okay to be the gaffer.
Right.
Who becomes the assistant lighting guy, who becomes the head lighting guy, who becomes the DP, who becomes the director.
Right.
Nah, I don't want to do that. I just want to direct. And I'm like, fuck, bro. Like, this is what I was dealing with as a professor. And so I was just like, you know what?
Is that why you quit?
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't have a lot of time. And I take shit really serious. And I think that I had some phenomenal students and some kids who went on to be really great, both men and women. But I realized that the attitude and the philosophy, the spirituality that I have with drawing, I have a lot of spirituality with what I think about drawing. They didn't really have that. And I'm not saying that's definitely not true for a lot of people who really have that, but like, man, like y'all ain't like hard on yourself.
Yeah.
I look at somebody like, I don't know if you know who Jennifer McChristian is. She's a plein air painter.
No.
You should have her on the show. She's the best plein air painter in the world.
Oh, wow.
In the world. I mean,
okay.
I'll say it. I just said it. She's nasty. She's so self-critical. She is nasty good. She's so good.
I'm writing her name down.
Jennifer McChristian. Tell her I sent you.
All right.
Hit her on Instagram.
Cool.
She's so good. It's crazy. And I've watched her from being bad to mediocre to good to very good to excellent to great to probably the best painter in the world. Because she's so hard on herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's got a background in like figure skating. And I think like she kind of got this crazy grindy discipline. It makes her just like, ugh. Like those are the people though. Right. Husser had that. I watched Husser. I was like, this guy is grindy. Like, I'm a New York kind of grindy. We're all different kinds of grindy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they had that X factor of wanting it and working for it.
You have to have that obsessive nature too.
Yeah, like a sickness.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got a sickness, dog. But like, I can't believe when people say like, oh, I don't really care. Like, I just want to be rich.
To me, it's like I want to be rich, but the only reason I want to be rich is so that I could keep creating my work. It's like I don't give a shit about the money. I'd be happy if everything was paid for by some benefactor or we turned totally socialist and everything was covered as long as I just get to keep painting. That's all I care about. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And it's like, the only metric that is important to me is people like Jennifer or Husser or all the greats or you or, all these great painters that make you aspire to be better. That's to me what matters. That's what matters, and the money thing is just, I have to do it.
Real art matters. And I think it's important for this new generation to hear that. Like, this is a spiritual journey.
Totally. 100%.
This is really important. This is really important. It's a spiritual journey. And it's really just about how much you progress and can you get better?
Yeah.
And do great things in a real way, not like walking on anybody, but like really, can you really do great things and spiritually grow from this? Because that's what an artist is about. It's about the spiritual development.
Absolutely.
And you can see it and feel it in the works. I don't care if it's Michelangelo, Gustav Klimt, Egon Schiele, Pontormo, Rubens, Raphael, Titian, Rodin, freaking Chet Zar, freaking, Picasso. You feel it.
Yeah. You can tell.
You're like,
you can tell.
Yeah. A Mike Husser, a Jennifer McChristian, plein air, dark arts.
Yeah, exactly.
Classical painting.
Doesn't matter. Genre doesn't matter. It's totally beyond genre. It's a magical thing.
Yeah, and that's why I hate this AI coming in like this because it's got no spirit.
I know. Yep.
And that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you go because I know you got things to do, man. But maybe you could come on again sometime because I wanted to ask
I would love to.
I wanted to go through your whole career, but
it's fine.
if you're cool,
I think we had this is a good.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah,
this was great. It was great. So
I'd love to. Let's do a part 2.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, the last thing we have to do is just say goodbye to all the listeners, and then don't hang up. So go ahead, say goodbye to everybody. You say
goodbye, everybody. No, thank you. And I'm serious about this. Goodbye, everybody, and let's get spiritually kind of locked into the fact that we just need to get better.
Hell yes. Thank you everybody thank you everybody for listening. Talk to you next time. Thanks,
Chet.
Bua.
Yeah, let's do a part 2, bro.
Yeah.